Internet! Shelf is here, and it's time for another episode of ShoutStone. Today we are doing another Cockatrice Hearthstone Shoutcast. This time it will be Malfurion Stormrage, the Druid, going up against Thrall, the Shaman, as XanderHS takes on Shadowzero in this one-on-one encounter. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into action. So, game starting off pretty simply here. In fact, with not much here. But if we take a look at the hands, some interesting cards in our Shaman player's hand. Already has Alakir the Windlord in his hand. Gonna play Wild Growth early to get things started. Get an extra mana crystal. Just a lovely gesture to get kind of that extra advantage going forward. Not much you can do with it right off the bat, however, but it will pay off later in the game. Thrall is going to dump 2 mana here. He's probably going to play a totem on this turn, it looks like. This is just going to decide which one. It's going to end up being a healing totem, so that will hit the field. Healing totem, obviously very handy. It's a little early for it to really be of any use, but it's always useful, I suppose. So, Malfurion the Druid, or XanderHS, already up to 4 mana crystals, so great use of that Wild Growth card to get that extra advantage. He's going to drop 2 just to get the attack power and take that healing totem out of play. Well, try to at least, I should say. I'm going to start. Start wearing it down. 1 damage out, but still more to go. Pass back to the Shaman player. So this could be a really interesting play. Now, a Shaman player does have the coin, so he does have the ability to play a +1 mana card a turn before he can do it, so there is that advantage. Looks like he's going to pull out another totem. It's going to be a Wrath of Air totem. Wrath of Air, of course, getting +1 spell power. Very handy for any spells and abilities you may have in your Shaman deck, such as Chain Lightning or anything else like that. Or Lightning Bolt. All of that good stuff, you know. You know what a Shaman can do. Alright, back to our Druid player. Up to 5 mana now. Going to pop 2. Probably going to... Well, he can't take out that healing totem. See, that's the thing with the healing totem. If you can't finish it off at 1 turn, it'll get its HP back every turn. But he's going to try and strike it again, which will knock it down to 1, which seems a little bit of a fruitless effort in my view. We'll play another Wild Growth card to get that extra pre-spent mana pool. And that's it. Turn is passed. So, again, this turn is going to end with that healing totem going back up to 1, so I don't really understand the logic behind that. I would have just wasted those 2 attacks on the hero, so at least it has some sort of meaningful damage, despite the fact, well, that would be regenerated too, so really, it just seems like a waste of mana. But, anyway, Earth Elemental comes into play, 5 mana card, has Taunt and Overload, so 3 mana will be out of play for the next turn for the Shaman player, Shadowzero. But it's back to the Druid. Already getting very high in mana, which is really nice. Pretty sizable options, too. Still no minions on the field for the Druid player, but he doesn't really have any minions to play. That's kind of his problem right now. He does have Force of Nature. He could play that to get some treants out on the field. But aside from that, he can do Swipe to do some sizable damage across the board and try to do some damage to everything, but that Earth Elemental is extremely durable. That cost in Overload, however, kind of makes up for the fact that it's such a high damage and high HP target. For only 5 mana, I should say. Going to play Nourish. We'll get the extra mana, I think, out of it. No, he's just going to draw the cards. My mistake. So we will just draw 3 cards, trying to get a freaking... something useful, I guess. This seems like he has a very spell-heavy deck. Obviously not a lot of minions here, else he'd certainly have something by now. But relying very heavily on his spell ability. But nothing he can play at this point, so it goes back to the Shaman player. He's going to pop 3 mana. No, he's going to pop all of his mana, excuse me. He's going to pop all 5 to play Ancestral Spirit. And he's going to play that on the on the Earth Elemental, excuse me. So, basically the Ancestral Spirit, what that means is when that minion dies, it will come back. And it will be able to inflict more pain. So a little bit of armor that's been built up on the Druid every time he's played his bear form attack has been exhausted now, and 4 damage dealt to the hero, thanks to that Earth Elemental. And still no damage taken for the Shaman player or any of his minions. That healing totem's been tagged a couple times, but that's about it. So now it's back to the Druid, still pretty much just loaded up on spells. There's really not a heck of a lot here. He's gonna have to try and... You know, I mean, he could play Bite to get his hero +4, and then also play Savagery to kind of spread the damage across. He'd take out those totems, and he'd deal a sizable chunk of damage to that Earth Elemental. So that's one possibility he has here. Also has Innervate, which he could play for free if he has something else to pull out here. Healing Touch, you definitely want to hold on to that. Yeah, I mean, he's got a couple of options. I think he could still do that Force of Nature to actually get some minions out there and deal a little bit of damage. I think in conjunction with... Yeah, I mean, I'd probably do the Bite and Savagery combo here. Might be a good choice. If not now, then at some point. So you can at least get 4 armor back, +4 attack. And then he could go with the Savagery play here to take out the totems, deal about half the damage to the Earth Elemental, and deal 4 damage to the hero. So, seems like a smart play. He is going to play Bite, and he might actually be doing exactly what I thought he will. He at least is going to play Bite on this turn. And he still has that option to play Savagery to follow that up. He has 2 Savagery cards, so he could actually do it twice, which would finish off all the minions. I mean, it would bring back the Earth Elemental because it has Ancestral Spirit, but it would still do a good solid 8 damage to the hero. Alright, so there's 4 damage dealt to all the minions. That's going to clear out the totems, like I said, and deal 4 damage to that Earth Elemental. He could play it again, and then he can attack with Malfurion to the hero if he wants to do some damage. If he wants to do that. Stack it up or something like that. Could also burn one of his swipes if he wants to. He doesn't have enough for swipe, but he does have enough for another Savagery. Or he could just do Innervate and then swipe, whatever he wants to do. He's going to do another Savagery, like I said. That will finish off the Earth Elemental, but it will bring it right back with Ancestral Spirit. So at least that gets rid of that Ancestral Spirit card, which is going to be useful for later in the game, and he could also attack with Malfurion, if he chooses to do a bit of damage to the hero player. And finally even out this game a little bit more. But we'll have to see what he decides to do, because at this point, he only has 1 mana left. He could burn Innervate if he wants to get 3. But there's really... Yeah, it doesn't really have anything he can do with that, so I would just say at this point, just attack the Shaman player with Malfurion. He can also... they can't pop his hero ability either, so yeah, I would just say do a straight-on attack. And, no, he's just going to pass the turn. Might not be able to attack. That's something I'm not really entirely sure of, if when you get plus attack, if you can just attack outright. But, in any event, we are back to the Shaman player. A good turn there, clearing out those troublesome totems, as it were. And we'll see what our Shaman player has available. He's got a lot of options. He's going to play his Stormforged Axe. That will cost him 1 of his mana crystals in Overload. And he's going to pop another 4 to throw out the Wind Speaker. And that will give that Earth Elemental Wind Fury. That is a great choice. So now you've got this Earth Elemental is going to be dealing 14 damage, plus the Stormforged Axe attack for another 2. So that is 16 damage that's going to be dealt on this turn. Very handy. Very nice attack. Plus the armor. Sorry, the armor will take it out. So it's going to be 12 damage in total. That's still good. That's a very sizable move right there. And this is a pretty evenly matched game so far. So it's back to the Druid player. They both have a really sizable hand. One thing I'm going to talk about, you're going to see this in one of my videos. If I haven't released it already, you will see it soon. I'm going to call it the currency of cards. I want to talk a lot about why I value cards that you have. And I've said this a ton of times, so you all know this, but I'm going to talk about that a lot. But alright, going to be playing Swipe. That'll deal 4 damage to that Earth Elemental, and 1 damage to every other minion, so that Wind Speaker will take a damage. The Earth Elemental will take 4. And I'm going to play Swipe again to finish off that Earth Elemental and deal another damage to the Wind Speaker. So now Malfurion could finish off that Wind Speaker if he chooses to, just to get it off the field, even though he would eat 3 damage for doing so. Does finally have that Twilight Drake, however. He's going to play Innervate to get 2 mana crystals, and then play Healing Touch with his last point, plus that to get 8 health back. So a very smart move, and a good timing, I think, to use that Healing Touch. And he's going to pass the turn. So here we go, turn back to Thrall. I'm sorry, he couldn't have attacked because he didn't have enough mana to actually hit his hero power, so before I get the comments saying, no, you couldn't have done that, you can make it happen, just wanted to correct myself before you all did, because I know you would. I love y'all, but I know you'd do it, and that's fine. It's justifiable. There was a game where I made a lot of mistakes when it was down to calling the functionality of the snake traps, and you all let me know repeatedly about that. So, another Earth Elemental hits the field. Once again, Wind Speaker going to strike out for 3, and another 2 coming from the Stormforged Axe, which is down to its last durability, and a nice bit of chunk of damage for Malfurion, and the turn goes back to the Druid player. So right now, despite the fact that Shadowzero has the health advantage, it's still fairly even. You know, as you all know, games are certainly not decided this early. A lot of this is set up. Even if he was down to, like, single-digit HP, it still might be avoidable. Like, you can still turn it around. Obviously, the card advantage is going to the Shaman player at this time, but it's not that significant of one for me to say, oh, he's got it in the bag. You know, I know better than to call a game that early. That's just insane to try to call a game that's going to end that quickly. It's just not going to happen. But in any event, now the Druid player trying to make his decision. And I know it looks kind of funny the way his mana is set up. He does only have 10 mana out there. Or actually, he only has 9. Yeah, he's got 10 mana, excuse me. He's got his 10 mana, he's just got to shift it to the way we were used to seeing it in 3-3 and 1 over here, but whatever, doesn't matter. But he has a lot of options. Let's see what he has. He has the Dalaran Mage, which can give him +1 spell power, and it's a pretty decent choice. The Twilight Drake, which will gain +1/+1, or he could hold on to that a little bit and wait till he's got a few more cards in his hand. Does have Starfall, where he can choose to deal either 5 damage to a single enemy or 2 damage to all of them. That would finish off the Wind Speaker and do a small amount of damage to the Earth Elemental, but I don't know if he's going to go that route. And again, that Force of Nature. And that's a temporary minion card. He'll get 3 2/2 treants. So he could... yeah, he could do Force of Nature if he wants to, you know, finish off the Wind Speaker and do 4 points of damage to that Earth Elemental to take it down a little bit. But that would be about it. He could do that, and he could do the Twilight Drake if he wanted to. Oh, it's a hard choice. I mean, I would probably... Yeah, this is really tricky. I would probably play at least a minion so he has something out there. The Twilight Drake is so much more useful when you have more cards in your hand, though. For obvious reasons, I mean. We're gonna have to see what he wants to do, really. I mean, it's a tricky decision he has to make at this point. I mean, my play would probably be... he's just gonna play the Mage. Alright, so he's gonna throw out that Dalaran Mage. And he's gonna drop another 2 mana to play his hero ability. Could use it to finish off that Wind Speaker. Could use it to just deal a point of damage to the... Here it's... Oh, and he's gonna play Starfall here for the rest of his mana. And he is going to... Let's see how he decides to use it. Yeah, I guess he's going to focus that directly onto the hero. Or no, actually, I'm sorry, he did that to everything because it has the +1 spell power. So instead of dealing 2 damage to everything, it dealt 3 damage. So, much more useful. So it finishes off that Windspeaker and does a small chunk of damage to the Earth Elemental, but it's back in the Shaman player's court. He does have those 3 overloaded pieces of mana thanks to the Earth Elemental, so he can't use those this turn. He's only got 5 mana to play with, but he's just going to attack the hero with that Earth Elemental, take out that 1 piece of armor, deal 7 damage, strike with the Stormforged Axe on its last swing, so he'll use that up to get another couple points of damage in, and things are starting to look mighty good for our Shaman player, who has the card advantage, the health advantage, the minion, the minion, I guess he'd say he has the minion advantage. Now he certainly does. And he's going to play that Venture Company Mercenary, which is a very nice card if you're not going to play many other minions, because it's really cheap for a very strong minion. But if you play more minions, it's going to cost you big time. So, good to put probably near the end of the game when you're trying to focus damage, or if you have a lot of spell cards. That's certainly useful too. So things are looking interesting. Now we got to see if Xander, what he wants to do here. Only has Force of Nature, Twilight Drake, and Starfall left in his hand. He does have that Dalaran Mage, who still will get a +1 spell power, so he could, in theory, play that Starfall card and do a small amount. Probably take that Mercenary down to half health, take the Earth Elemental down to just, well, sufficiently under half health. We take it down to 2 health, basically. But I don't know if he wants to do that. This is he's kind of backed into a corner here. There's not many really good, solid options that he has. I mean, he has that Force of Nature, which will give him a guaranteed 6 damage. He could use that Force of Nature to finish off that Earth Elemental if he wants to get rid of it, because it does have Taunt, so he has to focus on it. And then he could throw out a Twilight Drake if he wants to. It's not going to be very powerful. It probably actually wouldn't be very good at all. He'd have to do that first, just so he gets a 4/4. Unless it counts after the card's played, which I'm not entirely sure. Either way, it's probably not worth playing a 4-mana card for something that's only going to be 3/3, if that's the case. So, yeah, this is tricky. I mean, it's probably the best thing I can recommend is drop that Force of Nature, get those Treants out, use them to finish off that Earth Elemental, and then, or I wouldn't sacrifice the Dalaran Mage, because you never know if you're going to get a good spell out of the deck, so you kind of want to hold off on that. But I'd certainly take out one of those minions, and he can choose either one. Well, no, he has to take out the Earth Elemental because it has Taunt, but he has to take out one of them. So that would be my play at this point. Just play that Force of Nature, focus all the Treants right on that Earth Elemental, take it out. I mean, the Treants are only good for 1 turn anyway, so they're not permanent minions. So get him out there, take out that Earth Elemental. You've got him down to just the Venture Company Mercenary and whatever else he decides to play, because this will bring him out to his 9th mana turn. And he doesn't have anything with Overload, so he could play quite a bit. Oh, but he's going to do Starfall. Let's see. That will be, if he can focus 6 damage and take out a minion. Well, he's just going to finish off that Earth Elemental with Starfall. Still not a bad choice. Either one works fine. I guess he wants to hold on to that Force of Nature to spread out his damage a bit more, which is a reasonable play. So at least he took one of them out. That's really all he can afford to do at this point. But he is going to pop his hero power. And he might just attack Thrall. Yep, he is just going to attack the hero, and the Dalaran Mage is going to attack the hero now that the weapon's gone. So that'll deal about 3 points of damage. But now it's back to the Shaman player's turn. So now it's up to 9 mana. Thrall, on a 9-drop play here, he can do pretty much whatever he wants at this point. Does have that Alakir card. But he's going to use that Venture Company Mercenary to deal 7 points of damage. And he's going to play the Fire Elemental to deal 3 damage to finish off the game. That will do it. Even though, considering he should have only taken 6 points of damage from the Venture Company Mercenary, it really doesn't matter too much because that Fire Elemental did 3 damage. So that's it. That was all for the game. So there you go. A perfect example of the value of the cards. Now, not only did he have the health advantage and the minion advantage, but he was basically dominating that game. I wasn't a really big fan of the Druid player's deck. It was very spell-heavy, and I think Druid decks work a little bit better with a few more minions in play. And some of the spells are good and all, but that was really risky, and that was hard to counter, especially against a minion-heavy deck like the Shaman player had. And playing all those additional mana crystals, things like that. I mean, despite the fact that he was still he was 2 mana behind that whole game until the end. But it was much better and much more interesting. So congrats to Shadowzero on a dominating performance. We'll probably play more of these guys' games because they played quite a few. And I have all their replays, so... We'll be back tomorrow with more ShoutStone, as always, and thank you so much for watching. Let's hope the beta comes soon, because I want to start casting some live StarCraft action. So again, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to follow me on Facebook or Twitter, the links are in the description below here on YouTube. And you can also like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff that we so ask you kindly to do, and I know you people do it. I've gotten so many great subscribers, great comments, and I appreciate it so much. But thank you again for watching, and we will be back next time.